Good evening, Bob. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Mac. How are you doing?
Yeah, we have another evening, another show on the Mag Commentary here. There seems to be a lot of talk in the news today, and for the last year or so, really, maybe a little longer than that, I just hadn't been paying too much attention to it. Uh,
Uh-huh.
but we kind of had touched base on it once before, I believe, with the heroin epidemic that's going on in the United States here,
Oh, yes.
and it seems like it's getting uh, worse with what's happening down in with the now they're trying to focus in on Mexico as being the major source of heroin. They said that
Oh, wow.
they said it was the heroin was coming from Colombia, South America, of course, and Mexico.
Uh-huh.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, Bob, from my knowledge of that, that Mexican heroin, they call it black heroin now. I can recall back in the 80s, they called it Mexican mud. But
Oh,
that's when it was being distributed in the black communities. And heroin, that wasn't the real good heroin. The real good heroin was that white horse, what they call it, that white heroin, which came from Afghanistan. And you notice how things are kind of picked back up over there in Afghanistan right now, where
yes.
where the president is sending more troops over there. I thought we were supposed to be out of there by 2014. Wasn't that the plan with President Obama?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I think they had pulled the troops down to what, less than 8,000, right? At one point.
Right.
And at one we had like up to 150,000 at one time. And we were starting to scale back. So so President Trump is going to send some more troops over there, eh?
Oh yeah, that's what they're talking about now to beef it up over there. And I'm just trying to I don't know I'm trying to correlate that with the heroin epidemic we've got here. Are they going over there to protect the heroin production or what? And then they
Oh,
or they just
okay.
and now they want to take Mexico out of the equation there, and they down there now working with the Mexican army to eradicate all of the heroin poppy fields there in Mexico.
Oh, to cut out the competition from Afghanistan.
Apparently, that's it. I mean, there's a lot of money in that. See, Afghanistan produces the most heroin in the world,
Right,
and that's their livelihood there.
right.
Now, I'm just wondering if we, as the Americans, government or whatever, are we protecting the the poppy crops over there in Afghanistan?
Yeah, that's an interesting thesis.
And
Huh.
and we noticed that most of your heroin addict right now, most of the heroin is coming to America, North America, and a lot of it is going right into Canada up there, and into the northeast states up there like Maine and Vermont.
Yeah, and New Hampshire too.
Yeah.
And it's coming back into our neighborhoods because I had a young man that lived on my street, and a fine young fella, uh, married with a wife and five children, a working guy, worked every day, and he and I would get out and chat every day. I had no idea that he was a heroin addict back, and
Uh-huh.
he overdosed about 2 months ago. His brother told me, said, he came down and he was very distraught. Said, Brandon died. I said, oh my God, would he have a heart attack? He said, no, he overdosed, OD'd on drugs. I said, what kind of drugs? He said, heroin. heroin that they're putting in the black community. That because that's what this kid told me. He's not a kid. I mean, he's in his 40s. But that's what he told me. His brother died from it. I've known them since they were probably they were good friends with my nephew.
Oh yeah.
Who lives in Arizona now, and that's how I knew them. But yeah, so it's back, but going back to the point that you made earlier, there's billions of dollars being made in that trafficking.
Well, that's
of that that killer drug.
well, they claim that's what the cartels want to participate in, because the Mexican army, it says this fight against surging opium production that feeds the U.S. demand is increasingly complicated by the rise of smaller gangs disputing wild, ungoverned lands planted with ever stronger poppy strains now.
Oh wow!
And they have really taken over the state of Guerrero in a war to try to control those poppy fields. And they said they are turning inaccessible mountain valleys which is filled up with endemic poverty and famous beach resorts into Mexico's bloody spots,
Yes.
Now they're saying that what this is fueled by is because they see a direct link now between what's happening there with the growth of the poppy plants and fields there in Mexico with a record U.S. heroin epidemic that killed nearly 13,000 people in 2015, and violence that's all around as well. But I mean,
that's just in America.
Yeah, it's a record U.S. heroin epidemic that killed nearly 13,000 people in 2015. Now, it says heroin use in the United States has risen fivefold, Bob. That's 5 times in the past decade. And addiction has more than tripled, with the biggest jumps among whites and men with low incomes.
Right. Well, see, Brandon would fit that category of a black father with low income. I don't think if he made $60,000 a year, it would surprise me. And I saw somewhere they said out in California, out near San Francisco, if you're a family of 4 and you make an income of $105,000 a year, you're considered low income. And so I guess that's a relative term. But something that just occurred to me as you were citing those statistics, maybe they're focusing more on this heroin to distract us or to change our thinking from 2 drugs that are legal within the American system: alcohol and the opioid drugs that are administered by the physicians in our country. The medical profession, and they know this, they don't like to talk about it, but they kill anywhere from 200,000 to 300,000 people a year through drug prescription drugs, etc. And that's a very closely held secret. And then secondly, more than 50,000 people a year die in auto accidents as a result of the use of alcohol. And
wow.
Those figures pretty much mask the 13,000 that have died from heroin. And all of those lives, every single one of them is important. God, because we're all God's children. But my point is,
Well, can you?
maybe there's
Well, can you? If you got 13,000 people who died in 2015 and probably as many in 2016, how many people out there you have addicted to this? Uh,
right.
you know,
That's right.
I mean, and that's living from day to day. I mean, you've heard of certain musicians who all their life were heroin addicts.
Well, I mean, like I say, this young fella that lived down the street from me, I'd see him going to work every day. I don't know where he worked, but on the weekends we'd be out work, piddling around in the yard. And as you know, I have a garden, so I would give him tomatoes and for his family and stuff like that. And that just devastated his wife and children that he died from an overdose of heroin. And his family. I mean, not just him. His brother was completely, and they're fine young fellows, man. I mean, it's a tragedy. And how many? That just happens to be one that I know about. And like you say, how many? There must be 100 that I don't know about that maybe died on the same day.
Wow.
You know. So yeah, it's. But Mac, like you said earlier, and I agree to it. I mean, I'm doing okay. That's the attitude of, I think, most of the people out here. I ain't using no heroin. Well, I mean, that's a foolish, selfish perspective when I think about it, I mean, we're supposed to be a Christian nation, aren't we? We're supposed to love our fellow human beings,
Well,
aren't we?
Oh yeah, and that's the same thing with. I was reading something today about poverty in America, and I had done a little photo expose on that, and I was reading some of the comments made by some of the people, and these are mainstream people. You follow me?
Yes.
They say, well, how can this person be in poverty, and they got a car and they got a cell phone, smoke cigarettes? How can poor people smoke cigarettes? But I mean, and they say, well, if they go to another country, like in South America or somewhere, they'll be rich. And I thought to myself, how would they be rich there? They're going to be just like all the other poor people there.
That's right.
They're poor.
That's right.
Unless they got Social Security they can take with them.
Yeah, I don't know, it really is a sad commentary, and I don't mean to laugh, at anybody, but I'm laughing about how stupid we are as a people as a whole. I mean, we don't. It's amazing that we don't see the kind of devastation that goes on around us. For example, now if President Trump is thinking about sending another 5 or 10,000, whatever the number is, of American boys over there to die for drug trafficking, what kind of logic is that, man? I mean, these kids, they're doing that because there's no employment here in America, so they go to the service. And they should go to the service because the service is good. It puts discipline in a lot of these young people. But we need a peacetime service. If we had a peacetime service and put them into these neighborhoods, we may be able to stop a lot of this drive-by shooting and child molestation and breaking in people's houses, because these kids are disciplined, and they would be able to stop a lot of that. But no, we put them out and make murderers out of them. Because that's really what they're doing. When you join the military, from what I've heard people say, you have 2 jobs: break things and kill people. That's what you're really taught to do, and that's not a healthy environment in which to try to mold your thinking as a human being.
You're right, Bob. Well, next week, our next time we get together, we're going to go into some other devastating things that's happening around the world. Like in Somalia, we're going to discuss how the drought over there is affecting so many people, and look at some of the other intricate details surrounding that drought, and express some of our opinions about what may be causing the drought.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So until next time, Bob, thanks, and have a great evening, man. I look forward to seeing you soon.